She spoke 9 languages. She ran one of the wealthiest economies on earth. She outmaneuvered enemies on multiple continents and commanded military alliances that reshaped the ancient world. The man who defeated her spoke 2 languages. He won the war. Then, he won something far more dangerous. He won the history books. And he did it in the most ruthless way imaginable. He didn't erase her achievements. He reduced her to her face. And what happened next has been happening to people ever since.
And Miss World 2000 is Miss India.
What you are about to hear is not a story about beauty. It's a story about a tax, a hidden, compounding, lifelong tax that gets charged to people who never agreed to pay it. And by the end of this video, you will never look at attractiveness the same way again. Because what the world calls a privilege has a receipt, and the fine print is brutal. Let's start with what everyone already knows. Attractive people earn 10 to 15% more over their lifetime. That's not opinion. That's a landmark economic study from 1994. They receive lighter sentences in courtrooms. They're rated as smarter, more trustworthy, more capable before a single word leaves their mouth. Psychologists call it the halo effect, and it's real. The ticket looks legitimate. The numbers check out. So why is this a problem? Because here's what nobody tells you. Every one of those advantages comes with a corresponding invoice. Some arrive early, some compound quietly over years, and none of them show up in the statistics that everyone quotes when they say that being attractive is just better. The fine print is where the real story lives. But the first charge, it arrives in your social life, and it's the one nobody warns you about. Most people have felt it at least once. That slow, nauseating realization that someone only keeps you around for status. Not connection, not friendship. You're a prop, a social accessory. You exist in their world to be seen with. For most people, that's a one-off betrayal. A bad friendship they eventually outgrow. For attractive people, that is their permanent social default. Before they open their mouth in any room, they've already been cast as someone's accessory. People assume their life is perfect, that their problems are smaller, that they need less support. And when they do struggle with loneliness, grief, failure, the people around them offer dramatically less empathy because the assumption of a charmed life has already been made. So they learn to pretend they're fine. They become very good at pretending. But here's where it gets darker. Relationships become suspect, not occasionally, structurally. When you're attractive, you can never be fully certain. Does this person want me, or the version of me they decided on before I walked in? That question doesn't resolve, it compounds. Psychologist William Swan called it the failure of self-verification. The human need for accurate social mirrors to build a stable identity. When every mirror in your life is distorted by projection, you lose the ability to see yourself clearly. You stop trusting your own self-knowledge. And that's just the social world. Wait until you see what it does at work. Here's a dynamic that plays out in nearly every high-stakes professional environment. An attractive person walks into a boardroom, and before they speak, a percentage of the room has already decided. She got the role because someone liked looking at her. So now she doesn't just have to perform well. She has to perform visibly better than everyone else in the room, just to be credited with the same competence. That's not paranoia. A 2024 experimental study using deepfake technology to isolate attractiveness as a variable confirmed it directly. Attractive women received a beauty premium in lower status roles. In senior or male-typed positions, attractiveness penalized them. That study is the direct heir of a 1979 paper with a title that says everything when beauty is beastly, and it works in both directions. Research shows attractive candidates are frequently rejected from lower status roles too, not because they're underqualified, but because hiring managers assume they're too good for ordinary positions. Attractive and rejected, not taken seriously in one room, not belonging in another. Octavian needed a multi-year propaganda campaign to erase Cleopatra's competence from history. A hiring manager does it in 30 seconds, without knowing they've done it at all. The mechanism is older than Rome, only the paperwork has changed. Picture someone attractive at a bar, getting drinks bought for them all night. From across the room, it looks like a social superpower. Frictionless, easy, pure privilege. But here's where things get complicated. Every free drink arrives with an invisible bill. Attention owed, conversation required, advances to deflect, energy spent managing the giver's expectations. By midnight, what looked like an advantage has become a second job, the exhausting, unpaid labor of being someone else's experience. Navigating the unwanted attention, calculating the safest way to leave, choosing your words carefully because a polite decline might turn hostile. The gift was never free. You just couldn't see the invoice from across the room. Now imagine that dynamic gets amplified, not just in the rooms you enter, but on every screen, in every app, to every stranger, at algorithmic scale. And this is where Octavian's original move makes its return. In 2020, leaked internal documents from TikTok revealed something extraordinary. Among the criteria used to decide whose content got suppressed: facial disfigurement, obesity, non-standard physical features. The platform was actively filtering which faces deserved visibility and which did not. The algorithm had a beauty standard, and it was enforcing it across billions of feeds every single day. This is Octavian's logic, automated. What took a Roman emperor years of deliberate propaganda now happens in a fraction of a second. And the psychological cost is documented and growing. 70% of women edit their photos before posting online. Patients started arriving at plastic surgery consultations, not with photos of celebrities as their reference point, but with filtered selfies of themselves. An airbrushed, algorithmically perfected version of their own face that they wanted to permanently inhabit. Researchers gave this a name: Snapchat Dysmorphia. And a 2025 study confirmed the chain reaction. Even passive TikTok use, just the mindless scrolling, was directly linked to increased body anxiety and consideration of cosmetic procedures. The standard is no longer just external. It lives inside your own reflection now. And that haunting has found a market. Something has shifted in cosmetic medicine in the last decade, and it is not subtle. Procedures like Botox and fillers used to be corrective, treatments for people in their 40s and 50s. Now they are preventative. The industry has a name for this shift: prejuvenation. And the patients driving it are in their early 20s. 22-year-olds are being treated for conditions they don't yet have, but have seen enough filtered faces online to be preemptively afraid of their own future appearance. This is not vanity in the traditional sense. This is anxiety, medicalized and monetized. A 2024 systematic review of 25 studies nearly 14,000 participants found a consistent, significant link between social media exposure and the decision to undergo cosmetic procedures. And it doesn't stop at one. Each procedure highlights a new dissatisfaction, a new deviation from the moving standard. The cycle feeds itself. Octavian weaponized Cleopatra's appearance from the outside, a deliberate attack with a named enemy and a clear agenda. The cosmetic spiral weaponizes it from the inside, through a feedback loop so thoroughly internalized that the person doing the paying often can't even identify the transaction they're in. The direction of the assault has flipped. The damage is the same. Here's what happens to a person who grows up being responded to primarily as a physical object. They learn, through thousands of repeated experiences, that their value is located in something they did not choose and cannot control. Every compliment is slightly off-center. Every relationship carries a question mark. Every professional achievement is shadowed by doubt, their own and other people's. And then, the surface changes because it always does. Aging is universal, but for someone whose identity has been built on, or defined against, or constantly managed around their appearance, aging is not just a biological process, it is an identity crisis. The thing that gave them their social currency, their relationships, their daily experience of moving through the world, starts to depreciate. And if they never built anything beneath it, because the world never required them to, they are left with a version of themselves they don't recognize, and a world that is suddenly less interested. The lottery ticket expires, and then the interest comes due. Cleopatra built everything beneath the surface: languages, statecraft, military alliances, an entire economy. And Octavian still found a way to make it all disappear, by controlling the story of her face. Most people don't get to build what she built, and the story of their face gets written for them, long before they are powerful enough to contest it. Being attractive is not a neutral trait. It's a social force field that distorts everything around it. How people treat you, what they assume about you, what they resent you for. It gives with one hand and takes with the other. And the taking is slower and quieter and more thorough than anyone on the outside ever sees. 2,000 years ago, that looked like Octavian's propaganda machine. Today, it looks like a TikTok algorithm and a booking at a cosmetic clinic. The technology changes, the transaction doesn't. So here's the question I want you to sit with, and drop your answer in the comments. Do you think we've been calling a tax a privilege? And what would change if we stopped? And if this video made you think differently about something you thought you already understood, the next video on this channel does the exact same thing to a topic you've been lied to about since school. You'll want to see it.